Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in to the Raise Your Own Bar podcast. My name is Tamara Bucky, and I'm excited to have with you today a special guest, Miss Sandra Rice. She is a nurse, she is a brand ambassador, she is an entrepreneur, and she is a voice out here trying to just help the world be better by showing them how to be a better person, how to live their good life. And I'm so excited to have her today. Welcome, Sandra. How are you?
Hey girl, I am good. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited to see you. It's been quite some time. Of course, I see you on the socials, but haven't had a chance to actually speak with you for quite some time. So, what's new? What's going on in your life?
In terms of nursing, I did start a new job a couple of months ago that I'm very excited about. I love it. The staff is amazing. It's a pretty sweet gig. I love it. It's also part-time, so it allows me to still focus on my entrepreneurial journey. So I'm excited about that as well.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
So, you are a brand ambassador for Lamar J Exotic Cigars. I know you're a cigar connoisseur. And
That
then
is,
you also are You've got your own brand, Afro Crowns, where you do your head wraps, such as the one you're wearing now.
yes, ma'am.
So, what else? Am I missing any?
No, I think that pretty much covers it all. So with my brand, I also have a line of body oil, and it's a unisex oil, so both men and women both can use it. It has healing properties, hydrates the skin, and all that good stuff. So I'm working on I've been selling it for quite a while, but I'm working on making it a little bigger than what it is.
That's awesome. I'm all about the natural oils, trying to get away from one, relying on big brands, and two, just trying to get the junk and the toxic chemicals out of my life. So, that's amazing to hear that there are other people out there doing it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's probably one of the best things that's ever happened in my life. I love that oil.
So, it's a body oil that is for just moisture.
So it reduces scarring also. It has vitamin E and aloe. The base of it is mineral oil, which is essentially baby oil. So you know it's safe for your skin. I mean, we put it on our babies, and it doesn't have all the harsh chemicals and high fragrance perfumes and things of that sort. Yeah, it's a pretty good oil.
Okay, very cool. And tell me, how did you get into cigars?
So I've been an avid cigar smoker for probably about 7 years. It wasn't until about a year and a half ago, a line, the owner of a line of cigars that I started smoking, I started have just sat down with him one day and had a conversation with him, and he was like, "Have you ever thought about selling these?" And I was like, "No, I don't have a business bone in my body. Absolutely not." Um, and he was like, well, maybe you should consider it. He said, I tell you what, I'll work with you. Let me give you a box of cigars to sell. Let's see how it goes, and we'll talk after that. I sold the whole box like that day. So the next day, he added me to the team.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
and it's just been up and up ever since. It's been a really sweet journey. It's a team of five of us. I'm the only female on the team. We get to travel to sell our cigars, so we're making a pretty big name for ourselves. The brand itself has been established since 2017, and it's steadily growing.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I'm not a cigar smoker, but I've definitely seen, I've even bought some for people, especially if I'm traveling out of the country. They always want me to get some certain kinds from the duty free station. They can be quite pricey, and it's amazing how many different ones are out there. What's the deal with his? What makes his so special?
So we actually specialize in exotic cigars. Odds are when you shop with us, you're not going to find another cigar like ours. We do have some, however, that are similar to other brands, but we also have some cigars that you're not going to get from any other line. We sell trifectas. We also have a cigar called the Twisted, which is an extremely rare cigar. We're actually one of the few brands that carry it globally, and it's an amazing smoke as well. But just the fact that we are based out of Huntsville, so we're local. You don't have to go very far, and our prices are pretty reasonable. They vary anywhere from $10 to $40, depending on the cigar you get. But on average, they're about $12, which is a pretty standard price for a cigar.
Yeah, that actually seems pretty reasonable compared to some of the prices I've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Very cool. So the company is based out of Huntsville. Where's the tobacco from?
So we have a tobacco farm out in the Dominican. Our team does everything from seed to smoke. So our farmers, they raise our tobacco, grow it, roll it, all of that good stuff. It's then imported to us where we do our own labeling, infusion, the whole nine. So yeah,
Wow.
even though we're based out of Huntsville, we do have a team of farmers in the Dominican.
Well, I've heard that they have really, really good tobacco there, and that some of the cigars coming out of the DR are better than even Cuban cigars. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. I've sampled Cuban cigars before. I've sampled a line of cigars from Africa. I've sampled cigars from the Dominican, and the Dominican so far is top tier to us. So
very cool. So for anybody who is interested in getting with you to purchase cigars, where can they get them? How do they get them?
we're a web-based store, but we do a lot of vending across the country. Primarily, you can shop with us online at www.lamarjexoticcigars.com, or you can just simply put in Lamar J Exotic in the Google bar and it'll pop right up. Um, we can also be reached personally. We're personal shoppers as well. So we have clients who don't necessarily want to leave home. So they'll hit us up personally and we just deliver their cigars to them for a fee, of course. But we're very easy to be reached. And I can drop all of that information to you if you'd like. However, if anyone would like to contact me directly, it's 256-288-5436, and I will be happy to assist you.
That's some good customer service right there. And yeah, when we post this, I'll include links to all of the different web addresses and things of that nature, so that they can get in contact with you if they're interested.
Awesome.
Very cool. So that's one side, and being an ambassador for a brand that is largely a male dominated industry, that's got to be pretty cool because you're going to stand out, hopefully in a good way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I will admit at first I thought this is going to be super challenging because, being the only female of the team, which my team is great, but being the only female of the team and then having to travel to different places, I always feared like they're just going to talk to the men and completely ignore me and things of that sort. But it's actually been pretty cool. One of the downsides, though, being a woman, if there's ever like a concern or a complaint, you know who they contact?
Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Is it
But
because women are better at handling customer service? Possibly.
possibly, and sometimes maybe they just didn't want to face the male constituent. I don't know. But I will say if that's the worst thing I have to deal with in this line of work, I am good. It's been a really, really good year and a half. For the most part, it's just been up and up, and I'm so thankful for it. And I'm just looking forward to new things coming. We have some things that we're working on that we haven't talked about just yet. So I'm excited about that as well. So like I said, we're steadily growing. But yeah, as a woman, it's actually been pretty cool. It has its moments, but it's been pretty cool.
Awesome. And I love seeing your when you're doing events, I see you out there smoking your cigars in the lounge with your full attire and just looking super glamorous. There's something very classy and kind of like old Hollywood glam when I see your shots with the cigars. So love to see it, and I can't wait to see you do more
Yeah,
there.
thank you.
So your main business that I think you kind of started as just a side project for yourself and then it grew from there is your Afro Crowns.
So yeah, Afro Crowns. Well, to be honest, if we're being transparent, Lamar J Exotic Cigars has now become primary. It actually earns me more revenue than Afro Crowns. So Afro Crowns is still sort of a side project, but there are some things that I'm working on to kind of uplift that as well. I have done that a little bit longer, just little bits and pieces here and there. I really didn't find my strategies, in terms of business and networking and things of that sort until I partnered with Lamar J. So I'm actually learning more with the team as I go. And the more I learn, the more I can also put into my own business. So yeah, eventually that will be right there neck and neck with Lamar J Exotic Cigars.
So for people who aren't aware, what is the purpose of the head wrap and Who is a good candidate for it?
So, turbans, believe it or not, are a spiritual practice. A lot of people see a head wrap, and the first thing they think is African culture, which primarily it is an African culture. However, they're actually worn around the globe. There are people who practice Kundalini, which is a feminine form of yoga, and women who wear that. And it's women of all ages, all races that practice Kundalini. And what they do is they cover their crown with a turban, and they practice their yoga, and it's said to keep the energy inside, and it keeps circulating. It's a positive energy that keeps circulating throughout the body as you're practicing your yoga. So it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with culture. It's more of a spirituality. um, it also operates as a cover, because what it does is take the focus off of everything else and place it on your face. A lot of people think it has to do with long hair. You can be as bald as, an eagle and still wear a turban. As you've seen my hair is short. But I wear a turban not because of my hair, but because it's a spiritual practice. Plus, my father is from West Africa, so it does have some cultural points to it as well, but it is primarily spiritual.
Very cool.
Yeah, so anyone can wear them. I've had my first Juneteenth event last year on the Arsenal. So I met a lot of white female clients who came up and purchased a couple of wraps. And of course, the first thing, because they were so sweet, and the first thing they asked was, if I do this, will I be culturally appropriating? And of course, I just explained to them what I explained to you, the meaning behind it. I was like, don't let the title of the business fool you. It's simply called Afro Crowns because of my African roots. However, my products are for anyone who wants to try them.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that because there is such a, we live in tumultuous times. There's always kind of hesitation, and no one wants to, if they're being considerate, nobody wants to like offend any particular culture. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that explanation. And they look beautiful. I love all the different ones I've seen you wear, variety of colors and textures and fabrics and things that you seem to match with your outfits very well. So very neat. And if anybody wants to check out that business, I know you've got your Facebook. I think you've got, do you have a website as well?
I used to. I'm actually working on revamping the website right now, so it's down. However, they can follow my Afro Crowns page on Facebook. It's AFRICROWNS, Afro Crowns by Sandra. And they can see all of the different pieces that I have to offer.
Very cool. And we'll link to that as well. So, thank you for giving me the rundown on that. And then, of course, I know you're a nurse, so you're out here saving lives, trying to get people back to health, which is a growing concern in the United States. We've seen just craziness over the past couple of decades with spikes in cancers and heart disease and things like that. I'm curious, what made you want to get into nursing?
So I was super young. I was maybe a junior in high school, and I've always wanted to do something that would allow me to help people, like genuinely help people. And we had a college day event at the school one day, and there were so many different booths for healthcare, and I thought, well, this must be it. So I just walked up to one, and we got to talking about different backgrounds, nursing, medical assistants, things of that sort. So I was like, okay, yeah, I think healthcare is what I want to do. So I went to Virginia College, got a degree in medical assisting. I started out in urgent care, worked in urgent care for probably 10 years, 10 or 11 years. And it's hard work, it's draining, but at the end of the day, when you get a lot of calls stating, thank you so much for helping me, or, oh, I feel better, you realize it's truly worth it. Even though the work is extremely difficult, it's so worth it. But it does take a certain mindset to pull it off, because it is not easy.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it. Between the body fluids and the attitudes and just dealing with the public in general, I really commend you for doing it because it's very needed. I mean,
Uh,
we're always going to have healthcare in some form or fashion, even as technology progresses. And now they've started introducing a lot more. I've even seen like digital nursing.
mm.
Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't heard a whole lot. Well, there's like telemed where you can either do a video call, yeah. So I suppose you can say that, yeah, actually. There's telemed now, or you can also do a video call with your provider as well, depending on what case you have. There was a practice that I used to work for not too far back, and they did video conferencing, kind of like what we're doing right now. They did a lot of that for certain patients who had COVID and couldn't leave home, so they would
Mm.
just talk to them via Skype or over the phone.
Which is super convenient if you just need like a confirmation of a diagnosis and then, you know, get a prescription filled or something like that. I've used telehealth a few times myself. Of course, you might need certain tests and things, in which case you have to go in person. But
Yeah.
I read something yesterday about, I think it was Huntsville Hospital putting these digital remote nursing cameras in people's rooms that are like inpatient, so that way they can be monitored remotely by nurses from another location. And then if something goes wrong, if they see something and somebody needs to come in the room and take action, then they can alert people on the ground. But it allows for monitoring, it looks like, and check-ins.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. That's actually news to me. Well, actually, I take that back. I do remember someone mentioning a little, maybe about a month ago, that they were talking about putting monitors there at Huntsville Hospital. It may have been Crestwood. It was one of the hospitals. It's very interesting though, because it does sound like there's something present to continue monitoring versus having to go room to room, checking.
Yeah.
So that would actually be a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, I thought about how that might save on, I don't know, the ability you can monitor so many people at once, kind of is what I'm thinking. So maybe it'll save on labor costs. But if there's an intervention needed, of course, then you're going to have enough people on the ground to be able to respond to those things.
Right.
But if I can monitor, 12 patients at once remotely, um, and then just push a button if somebody needs to come in the room and do something, I feel like that would be beneficial for both the company and the patient.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because one thing's for certain, even though they have large staff, there are occasions where, you're short, and that's where the digital monitoring would probably come in. I can easily monitor 10 to 12 rooms or however many rooms versus having to go room to room to room on my own. So I think that would definitely be helpful. Um, but yeah, I think that's a really cool idea.
What do you think about these robot care aids? I forget what they're calling them, but these robo aids that they are now starting to roll out in other places of the world, and I think there's even some going on a trial basis in the US, where you have like an actual humanoid robot that's physically there with you to help with patient care.
You know what? That's interesting because I actually saw this video a couple weeks ago, and it was a robotics machine that actually performed an operation. It wasn't an actual surgery, it was more of a model, like a display. And it shows the robot performing the laceration, extracting whatever it needed to, and then stitching the patient back up. Um, I don't
Wow.
know, call me old fashioned, but it actually startled me a little bit. Now, the way it appeared, the way they displayed it, it looked super dope. I thought, wow, that would be cool if that was something that could be done. But you also have to take into considerations malfunctions and things of that sort, at least with the human, the human is there, they're, you know, able to continue and, get the process complete versus a machine that could potentially malfunction during something major. I
Hmm.
guess it would have its ups and its downs, but I have heard the the idea floating around of there being more robotics involved in healthcare, primarily hospitals.
Yeah. I would probably want a human to operate on me, and maybe it's just paranoia or unwillingness to embrace technology. But I just think about, if you need to adjust, and God forbid, let's say something happens and the patient's body is moved, or maybe even the patient moves because they wake up. Is a robot going to be able to adjust as quickly as they need to versus a human? A human immediately is like, oh, hands up, something's going on. Whereas, is the robot going to continue doing whatever it's supposed to be doing? In this case, maybe cutting or sewing. That's pretty scary to think
Correct,
about.
correct, correct. I feel the same way. I know technology advances every so often. I know that people are using more and more AI for certain things, but even AI has to be adjusted, from time to time. But yeah, I'm like you. I would rather have human hands there. That way, if anything happens, they can immediately take action versus having to stop, adjust the machine, and then try to get back to work.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't trust AI. I'm using it. I'm learning it because I don't want to fall behind because it's inevitable, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm.
ChatGPT, I've used ChatGPT, Gemini, and Grok consistently, and all of them have the same issue. They lie. They make stuff up and they try to present it as fact. And then when you, it just so happens I'm doing research on stuff that I already know, thank God, because otherwise I may not know that it wasn't true. And so when I press it and I'm like, well, this doesn't seem right or that's incorrect, then they're like, oh, you're right. Whoops. What what do you mean
Yeah,
whoops? We're trying to replace people's jobs with AI. If you can't do the job, if it, you're just going to lie and make stuff up and it's just whoops, how is that going to work in industry?
correct, because it seems like it's just programmed to respond, not necessarily programmed to offer proper assistance. You know what I mean? I think that's
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then was it last summer, I think there was an incident with Waymo, which Waymo is like that company that does autonomous driving
Mm-hmm.
where they can, which is creepy to think about. I don't want to get in a car with an autonomous driver. I just don't. I would rather drive myself or take an Uber. Um, but this was a traffic stop that the body cam footage was captured and then shared online, where an officer saw a driverless and passengerless car going the wrong way in traffic, like going against traffic. And
I've
then
heard
when the
that.
cop put the lights on, the car sped up and tried to evade the police.
Oh my goodness.
Like, that's
They have
crazy.
flight response.
Well, then, so he pulled the vehicle over and then he went up to the window. And when he was like, hello, hello, then through the computer system, he got connected to a call center where the person on the other end of the line, of course, has no clue. And he's like reading from a script and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. Let me take a look at it. And he's like, no, you don't understand. This car was driving the wrong way, almost caused a wreck, and then it tried to leave the scene and evade. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Let me take a look and see what happened. And it's like, what?
So bizarre.
How
Yeah,
can we possibly trust this technology? The fact that it's even allowed to be tested on us like that is
yeah,
insane because that could have caused a wreck and any number of deaths or injuries.
yeah, that's bizarre. Like I said, that vehicle it sounds like it had an actual flight response. That's a little bit scary. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I interact with AI all the time, and I try to talk to it as if I'm talking to a person. And the other day, actually yesterday, it said something like, "My heart goes out to you."
Hmm.
Really? How is it that you have a heart? And then I said that, and it was like, "Oh, it's just a figure of speech. I'm letting you know that I empathize with you." How? Like, how is a machine empathizing with me? That's impossible, right? Or is it?
Uh-huh.
I don't.
Well, it's kind of hard to say these days. I don't know. All I know is when I'm online and I'm trying to apply for something, I just check the box that says I am not a robot.
Which is weird. Like, why is it that we have to prove we're not a robot, and yet
The robot.
the robot, like, hey, I need you to prove you're not a human, okay?
But it empathizes with us.
It empathizes. It has its heart goes out to me, which of course it's going to be programmed by someone to be able to respond to certain stimuli, and I get that. It's just the phrasing is very weird. I feel like almost like they're gaslighting me into thinking that it's a human.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe
Anyway,
I think that's how they're designed too. I think they intentionally design AI that way so that we would be, I don't know, more accepting or more comfortable or more believing that it's actually beneficial.
Mhm. Yeah, gaslighting all around. And I get it. It's inevitable. The train is already barreling down the tracks. Me complaining about it doesn't do anything. So all I can do is really just be aware and
Mhm.
share the information and always say please and thank you so that one day when they do take over, they remember how nice I was and respectful.
I'm with you, sis.
But enough about me complaining about AI like a boomer. Um, you know, One of the reasons that I wanted to have you on, Sandra, is because over the years, I've just seen how much you really care about humanity and you
Mhm.
care about not just being a light for other people, but actually getting out there and getting your hands dirty and helping people. And one of the things I remember about you is like 5 years ago when I moved into this house, I was in a bind. I needed some help with just like some cleaning and stuff because we bought the house like as is and didn't realize that it was actually pretty gross. And you immediately came over. You're like, "I'll help you. I'll come right now." And I
Yeah.
just thank you again for that. And
Aw.
I've always admired you for that because there are not that many people out there that are willing to actually roll their sleeves up and do hard labor and for nothing, just to help, just because you're a good human.
Yeah, that's you know, one thing I can say about the society here in our country today is that we're so on the go and so busy that there's very little time to try to assist anyone with anything. And while that may be true, I also try not to be that much of a hard worker or, that much in debt that I have to work, 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 and not be considerate of others. And I feel like that's kind of where we're headed. And I also think that's why it's so hard to find genuine people who will actually set some time aside to assist. And I've been in some really, really low places before. There was a time where I was almost homeless. There was a time where I went a day or two without a meal. And I never want people to feel that way. If there is any way I can assist someone, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I just feel like that's the human being way. Like you have to be humane. You have to be. And I don't think it's something that you can necessarily pick up just sitting at a church. I don't think it's necessarily something you can pick up while just sitting at work. I think it has to be in you. And I really do feel like it's in me to help people because there's no way that I can go through a struggle and then be okay. And now I'm like blessed beyond measure. And then suddenly I don't want to help anyone who's been in that situation. That's just crazy. So as long as I have breath in me, yeah, I'm going to help someone do something. That's one of the reasons I actually started my own fundraiser to help schools get ready for flu. Um, because there's only so much a teacher can do out of their own pocket, and they don't get a whole lot of funding, here in the city for certain things like that. So it's like, yeah, that's my mindset. Something has to be done. Something has to be done. So instead of just talking about
Yeah.
it, I just took action.
And if not you, then who? I mean, that's the way you got to look at it. If you have the idea and you have the means and you can, then do it. Don't just think about it and talk about it. Like get out there and do it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Because there's so many of us who know what need to be done, and instead of actually just taking action, the first thing we do is take to social media, which doesn't necessarily do much for anyone, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in helping people, period. Not just my people, not just my family, not just my friends, but humans. I don't care who you are. And you have this light about you, which was very inspiring. So when you mentioned that you needed some help, I thought, who could say no? It's Tammy. Who could say no to her? I'm on my way, girl. Here I come.
You are so sweet.
I
Well,
love you, girl.
and I love you too. And I am so glad to know people like you and right here in this town that I love so much. Even though I'm not from here, I've adopted it. Um, it's it's really good to be able to help each other and find people that you can share the burden with because it does take a village, no matter what it is. And when you talk about the school the prepping for the flu with schools. I forgot about that. Um, Tell our audience what that is, and when did you get started on that?
Gladly, gladly. So it's called Local Flu Prevention Act. And what I do is I started out actually by generating a fundraiser on Facebook when I used to let you generate fundraisers. And I would literally just ask the community for money, whether it's local churches or stores or just our citizens, hey, could you contribute to this fundraiser so we can get these classrooms with Kleenex, Swiffer mops, because as it turns out, teachers have to mop their own floors. Wild, right? But yeah, Kleenex, hand sanitizer, hand soap, Clorox wipes, Swiffer mops, the whole nine. Anything that'll help a classroom stay safe during flu season. And when I tell you just something as simple as a small gift bag with 3 boxes of Kleenex and 3 bottles of hand sanitizer and a pack of Clorox wipes, when I tell you it made so many teachers' day, it was like giving them $1 million. Like that's how needed those supplies are. So I couldn't sit back and not do anything about that. Um, there was a teacher that actually taught me in high school. This is how I started Local Flu Prevention Act. She shared a post one day about how there was no funding for said supplies and they have to pay out of pocket for that. And that broke my heart because I thought, man, like a teacher's salary alone is not enough for them to try to make amends. And then they have to supply their classroom as well. So I started with her. I bought, a bunch of supplies for her. Then I thought, you know what, this is something that needs to be done regularly. So I started doing fundraisers and going to different places and trying to raise some money for it. And every season I would generate about $600 and I would select the schools that were more in need than others and supply the entire school with their supplies.
Wow. And when did you start doing that?
Let's see. This year will be my fourth season. Yep. So I started, I think it was actually right at 2021. I think it was right after the peak of COVID.
Mm, yeah, and everybody was freaking out about germs back then, as you kind of should be, especially when you think about cleaning surfaces in a school, because they're everywhere and they are invisible. And if you don't clean them, they're still there. They're going
Hmm.
to grow and fester. And that was eye opening for a lot of people, I think, going through COVID, especially in the beginning and the fear surrounding the virus, that everybody kind of got obsessed with cleaning surfaces and using Lysol wipes and hand sanitizer. So kudos to you for doing that. And if
Yeah.
for anybody that wants to get involved, I believe you have a Facebook page for that,
Hmm. I
local
do,
food.
I do. And I think my Cash App is actually listed in the bio as well. So if anyone would like to contribute, they're more than welcome to. And I can assure you it goes to a great cause. One thing I am really good at is being transparent with where the funding goes. So any dollar I receive, I make sure and show everyone where it's going. I don't record like, teachers or anything like that, but I do show proof that the supplies were purchased and delivered to the school.
And that's important for anyone who does donate. I know in the past I've wondered about money that I donated to organizations, how much of it actually got into the hands of the people who need it. So I
Mhm.
know for you, you volunteer your time and you're really just kind of trying to make things happen, and matching needs with resources and resources with needs, and not even taking a penny for yourself. And for that,
No, not.
I thank you on behalf of humanity, because sometimes the act needs to be done regardless if you can get paid. And you know
Correct,
volunteers
correct.
are so needed for things like that.
Oh
And
yeah. If it's something that's definitely needed, I don't take too much concern with the cost or trying to pay myself out. I just want to make sure it gets completed because there's so much craziness going on in the world today. We need a little more love. Everybody needs a little more love. Schools need more
yes,
love. Businesses, individuals. It's just like I don't know how we've gotten so far removed from what love actually means, but I'm hoping I can help shift that. That's kind of what I want my legacy to be.
you're making me so inspired right now, because I've been feeling more and more negative, and kind of I don't know, cynical from
Under-
politics and social media and all of these different things, especially in the past like year or two. And it's really
Yeah,
ramped up, it seems like. So I took Facebook off my phone, I took X and Instagram off my phone. I have to go on the computer to check them, which is enough for me to not do it as often as I was, because I think it becomes so addictive. I would find myself reaching for my phone and pulling up my app and maybe even scrolling for a few minutes before I realize, like, hey, I have work to do. What are you doing? You need to put your phone away. It becomes compulsive.
it
And then
does.
when you're reading all this negative stuff, it's so disheartening. And I need to do better about staying away from seeing that. And if that means I have to just not go on social media very often, then so be it. And instead, focus on the good that is happening in the world, because there is always good happening. There are always good people. You just have to look for them.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. I totally agree. And it's so funny you mentioned that because I've thought about going on a social media sabbatical. Like I need some time away. I only use it like for my marketing and just to maybe crack a joke here or there. Um, but I feel like I could probably go like several days without having to use social media as marketing and still get some work done. So I think I need to take a break too because I feel like every day that I log in now, it's nothing but nonsense. And it's just so discouraging. Like, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep my positive mindset if I see this every day. So yeah, I think I need to scale back too.
Yeah, discouraging was the right word. That's definitely what it feels like to me. It makes me feel sad for humanity and
Yeah,
for the future. And normally I'm someone who's full of hope. And even when times are tough, I still can find something to be hopeful about. And lately it's been harder and harder with the way people are just tearing each other down. And
yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to help turn it around. And I'm so glad that you are too. And really,
yeah.
all we can do is be an example, right?
Right, right. Because we can't control others. All we can try to do is influence them, you know. You can try to be an influencer, you can try to encourage. And it's a task at hand. It's a huge task, you know, because not everyone wants to be positive. There's a lot of people out there that don't even want help. They're complacent in, you know, their drama and they don't want to grow. And all that does is just spread even more negativity. So it's definitely a challenge. It's a challenge, but I think it's worth it.
I agree. And there's one group of people that I've noticed that you have kind of taken up the mantle for, to really help support and love on and bring attention to, and that's men in this country. I
Mm.
think there has been a growing divide between the sexes or between the genders for quite
Yeah,
some time. And, everybody was girl power, and I'm all about girl power. Um,
absolutely.
but but it's not girl power at the expense of crapping on men. It shouldn't be.
Correct.
And so I see you trying to bring awareness to that, and give attention and proper admiration to men in this country. So how did that start for you?
So I'm a boy mom. I have 5 children, 4 of which are boys. Um, I have an older brother, you know. I've had men in my life, you know, my uncles, my stepfather who raised me, who's essentially my dad, you know, my grandfather. So it's kind of hard not to be expressive, you know, positively expressive towards men. Um, and I'm also someone who tries to keep an open mind. I try to sort of be a catalyst for both sides. You know, I'll share a post one day to help women, and I'll share a post one day to help men, but I do primarily focus on men because at the end of the day, without a man, there is no woman. And I know you hear a lot of women say, you know, well, you came from a woman, you came from a woman, da 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 da. And it's like, well, most of you are religious followers. You follow the Bible, and the Bible does indicate that a man was here first, and then God gave him a woman from him. So essentially, we do come from men too. Um, you can't, you know, unless you're Virgin Mary, you can't make a baby on your own. You know, a man plays his part as well. But there are certain struggles that they face that we could never, you know. And it's not to take away from a woman's struggle, because believe me, as a woman, I know you yourself know of course we have our battles. Not taking away from that, um, but I just don't necessarily believe that one's got it harder than the other, or vice versa. I think that we both have trials and tribulations that we experience that one can't experience, if that makes sense. I think a man
Yeah.
has his struggles that we can't experience, and we have our struggles that they can't experience, which to me kind of balances that out. Um, but after, just long story short, after sitting and listening to some men converse about some things, because you hear a lot about men aren't this, men aren't that, they're a bunch of cheaters, da 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 da. But when you actually, being a cigar connoisseur and frequenting cigar lounges, you sit and have honest, genuine conversations with a lot of men, because it's also a male-dominated environment. They feel comfortable enough to open up, and you can see in their eyes, like, wow, this man is struggling. Like, I've had men cry in front of me before, and it was almost like a culture shock, almost, or so surreal, like, wow, like, we're really oblivious to what they're going through. Now, I will admit a lot of that does have to do with the fact that men don't necessarily open up, and I wish they would. But nonetheless, they do have a lot of struggles that they face on a day to day, and some of them have shared some of those struggles with me. Um, so I guess that kind of helped shift my own narrative, my own way of thinking towards men. Like, wow, I thought I had it rough. This guy over here has it worse than I do. So that's kind of where that came about.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be comparison. You know,
Correct.
comparison is the thief of joy. That's one of my favorite quotes by Theodore Roosevelt. And when it comes to the men and the problems that men face, the problems that women face, they're different. They're hard. And one
Right.
thing I've had to learn is that no matter who you are, the problems that you're facing are the biggest things in the world to you. It doesn't matter that compared to my problems, they're smaller. To you, they're the biggest problems in the entire world because perspective is everything. And
Yeah.
I do know that I've had some very honest conversations with men in my life that revealed, one, how emotional they actually are, but
Yeah.
they hide it a lot because they've been taught to from, previous generations that didn't think men should show their feelings. Um, or because they actually did show their feelings, and their partners, their wives, their even their friends were like, "Whoa, you're not allowed to do that. That's weird. Lock it
Yeah.
up. Lock your feelings down. I'm the emotional one. You're not allowed to be emotional." And I'll be honest with you, I actually found myself doing that one time. Um, Probably 3 years ago, Andrew was going through some tough stuff, and he was showing his emotion, and I was like, you can't have this breakdown. That's my role. And he was like, see, this is exactly why men don't want to share their emotions, because as
Hmm.
soon as they do, we get put in check because we're not allowed. Even though you tell me I'm allowed to have emotions, look at you. Now you're kind of telling me I'm not allowed to have it. And I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, you are right. And I'm sorry. And we worked through that. But it was eye opening for me, even somebody who thinks they are as evolved as what I thought I was.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we have to be put to the test. And I think that's where my first thought of all of that came from. I was put to the test one day, and I really feel like it was one of those things where the universe made me sit down and listen to some men. And I thought, wow, like, here I was just thinking they're just out here lollygagging, not caring about anything. And it turns out they have an entire mental struggle going on. The pressures that's on them, these tasks that they have to complete because it's a man's job, quote unquote, to do so. Um, that's just something I can't say I've ever had that kind of pressure on me. I've gone through some things, but I can't say no one's ever come to me and said, well, as a woman, this is what you need to be doing, da 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 da, and you have to do it, no ifs, ands, or buts. That's just you. It's just you. So I can't imagine having that kind of pressure um, placed upon me. I would be tired. I'm tired just thinking about it.
Right. Yeah. And again, no comparison. They're just different struggles.
Different
But
struggles, absolutely.
societally, we have, um, it seems like we have a culture that expects men to be the provider for certain things, financial security, stability, emotional, as well as physical. And I'm becoming more and more aware of that. And I want to help. Of course, I do my best to uplift the men in my life and to be a light for those that I am directly in relations with. But I think I want to do more. And I don't know really what that's going to look like. Maybe do some videos or something where I want to help the men that are struggling with just relating to humanity. And one of the things that I've consistently found in my conversations is at least with single men, is they don't know how to relate to women.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just want to try to help in some way. And obviously, I'm just one woman, so my perspective is mine alone. I can't speak on behalf of all women, but I think I can give some insight into kind of how our minds work and kind of where how we operate emotionally.
Mhm. Well, you know what? This is kind of coming full circle. I don't know if you recall a program called Men Deserve Roses Too. It's created and operated by Marcus Farrell, and he travels all over the city, literally giving men their roses while they're still alive. He's actually doing an event, I believe it's July 27th, somewhere towards the end of July. And he's looking for speakers or
Yes.
talent. And it's so funny because I just brought you up the other day. I was like, you know what? My girl Tammy, she's a comedian, she's an activist, she's well-rounded, open-minded. I was like, she'd probably be a good person for this event, and whatever talent you want to utilize during this event is yours, whether you just want to be a speaker to kind of help uplift men, or if you want to just bring your comedy to the table. Uh, I'm just mentioning this because you said you want to do something to help, and I think that would be a good start.
Yeah.
That would be a
Yeah,
good,
absolutely.
yeah. Baby steps. That's all we can take.
Yes.
Like you
Yes.
said, you're just one person, I'm just one person. There's no comparison. I really feel like we all need to be in this together. Um, but yeah, our men could use some uplifting, and that's why I try to, because like I said, without them there's no us, and they are our leaders. To some point they are our leaders.
Hmm.
um, so it only makes sense that we try to make sure they're good, and of course we want them to make sure that we're well also. um, but they too deserve their roses, which is the whole point of what Marcus is trying to do. Because we can get roses anytime.
Yes. And I've bought flowers for my man, and he was shocked
Nice.
but delighted.
Nice. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. That reminds me, I probably should do that again sometime because he deserves it. He's been working very hard lately. He's got a lot of responsibilities on his shoulders at his job. And, you know, he's a good provider for both me and his mom. His mom retired, and she moved down here so that he could help take care of her. And he does a really good job taking care of both of us.
Nice. That's fantastic. Yeah. I would give him roses too.
I know. I think I need to get some. I need to get some for him.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so let's see. You're obviously out here raising your own bar, constantly learning, trying new things.
Oh
You're out
yeah.
here being a light in the world and helping other people to raise their bar. What do you want to do with what do you see as your long-term goals in this world?
Um, I don't know, call me crazy or call me unrealistic, but I do see a greater change coming in this world. I do see people being more kind to each other. I do see a life where we don't necessarily have to discuss politics, or every time you enter a room, there's this division because you have conservatives, liberals, Democrats, Republicans, all just kind of going at it. I really do believe that if we put our heart and soul into it, we can create a better environment where we don't have to always choose a side. It's just people being people, you know? And like I said, I know this sounds unrealistic because, I get told that a lot, like you're too hopeful, you're too optimistic. I'm like, no, it's called being a human. I really think that's what being a human being is. But I don't know. That's just my kind of goal. Like if I could fix the world with one snap, I would do it, you know? But I really hope that my small acts eventually turn into bigger acts, which would eventually create a trend around the world. That's what I want to do.
I love that. You're giving me hope, and I need it. I need it. Sometimes I feel unhopeful. But you're so right, and all we can do is be a good example and then hopefully be an inspiration to others because you have inspired me, and just the spark of one person that inspires one other person, and then that one other person inspires one other person. It becomes a chain of inspiration, and a chain of helpfulness and hopefulness and love even.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's really my mission. Like if I can inspire others, not just inspire them, but hopefully they use that inspiration, to actually get out here and do something. And first and foremost, of course, do something for themselves because you can't help anyone if you yourself haven't helped, if you haven't helped yourself first. So I think I really think the root of the problem is there's so many individuals out here who know exactly what they want, but they're not necessarily healed or have a way of helping others because they can't even help themselves. But I think if people just stopped for a moment, even if it's just for a day, to just put a lot of love into themselves and then get back out here, and then maybe we could be better influencers. Maybe our minds would be in a better state. Maybe there would be more we'd be willing to do, you know?
Yeah.
I hope that made sense.
Oh, it absolutely does. Because so many times we get caught up in helping other people and doing what's expected of us, and we end up getting burnt out and get sick even. Like it can impact your health, your mental and physical health, because you just can't pour from an empty cup. And so you have to do self-care. You have to make sure you are fulfilling what you need. um, and there are emergency situations and extenuating circumstances that exist, but for the most part, you always need to put your own face mask on before you put, like if you're on a plane that's going down, right? You put your oxygen mask on you first before you go and try to help other people, because if you don't, it's just not going to work out.
Correct, correct. We're going to change the world together, Tammy.
I think we already are. I think we already are in tiny little bits and
Oh
pieces.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Uh, I'm so impatient though, daggone it. I want everything fixed right now.
Same, same. There are mornings where I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to go outside because I know there's been like zero change in the world, but I can't stay, with that mindset. So I just have to get up anyway and keep going and keep trying.
Yeah. And I just stay home and stay in my little bubble. I work from home most days, and it allows me to insulate myself a little bit from the world
Mhm.
because it's ugly out there sometimes.
It really is. It really is. I'm actually
So,
looking for my social media sabbatical.
girl, you're going to inspire me to remove it from my computer too. If I could just stick to using it for marketing purposes, I would be fine and it would be beneficial. But what I do is I get sucked in. I think I'm just going to go, well, let me just check. Well, let me clear my notifications, right? And then that turns into reading the notifications and responding. And then that turns into scrolling. And the next thing you know, you've wasted an hour or,
Down this rabbit hole.
yeah. And sometimes you find out like you're being like drawn in emotionally because you see photos and inflammatory headlines, and next thing you know, your mood might be ruined. You might even be crying. I found myself crying at some posts the other day, and I was like, all I was trying to do was post some things on my Facebook page, and then here I am now ruining my mascara.
Been there, done that.
I might need to take a sabbatical with you. Oh, did you finally take your Christmas tree down, by the way? Oh, you had to because you moved.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the only reason it came down. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't share that part in the post. I just let everyone know that it was down.
You're a trendsetter like that. I was holding out for you. And then one day I think I just got in a cleaning mood and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna do it. But I think I had my tree up until beginning of March.
Oh wow. Yeah, that sounds about like me. Yeah, I think last year actually I took it down the week after Easter. So it was sometime in April. And of course my friends gave me the toughest time about that.
Of course. But you know what? The Christmas tree brings you joy, and a lot of people will put theirs up early and enjoy it like really, really early. Whereas I didn't put mine up until right before Christmas. I'm like, I just get to enjoy it later, and it works out in the end. Who cares if
Okay,
people judge me?
you know what? So I get judged all the time, but if I can really quickly share with you why I leave my Christmas tree up so long.
Go for it.
Okay, so Christmas is the one time of year where human beings act like human beings.
Mm.
Um, I don't hear a lot of discussion regarding politics. I don't even hear a lot of people talking about, necessarily gifts per se. You see the marketing for gifts, but I don't really hear a lot of conversation about people going, "Oh, I got to get this. I got to get this." It's just I see decency. There's more people helping the homeless. There's more people donating items. There's more people helping people. And I just be like, wow. So my Christmas tree serves as a reminder that there is still good in the world. Even if it's only seasonal, there's still some good people in the world. And I know that there are others out there who do things continuously, but we see more and more sadness than we do greatness. And my tree just kind of helps me remember there's some greatness out there. There's some greatness out there.
Wow.
I put my tree up early and I take it down late because it serves as a reminder that I'm not the only one out here trying to do good in the world. So that's why I love my Christmas tree. It's not necessarily about Christmas per se, but about how human beings act like human beings during that time of year.
I love that. And that's going to help alleviate my guilt when I do this again next year. When I leave it up until March or April of next year, I'm gonna remember this conversation and I'm not gonna feel bad about it.
There you go. Because I most certainly don't feel bad about leaving my tree up. I don't. It's my tree. I paid for it and I decorated it.
And it's beautiful. And like every time you walk by it, it's like, ooh, how pretty, which gives you a nice little boost of oxytocin or serotonin in your brain. What is there
Exactly.
to be upset about?
Exactly, exactly. It's therapy. It's literally therapy. Like, give me my Christmas tree, a soft candle, some music. Like, I don't even watch TV half the time. I just sit on my couch and I stare at my tree. I put my phone down and I eat my popcorn. I drink my tea.
Love it. And as somebody who's ADHD, I love the shininess because I've got all the jewels and baubles and sparkles on there, and there is something about looking at something pretty that does give you a mental boost, and it really just it can make your mood better.
It does. It really does. Oh, yeah.
So
It's
nobody better judge.
Hey, let them judge. We don't care, right?
That's true. That's true. They're going to judge anyway. What I need to do is not care.
There you go. There you
Don't
go.
care. Wow. Well, this has been a really fun conversation. I do have one more question that I want to ask you.
Absolutely.
How is it that you juggle all of these different things? Like how do you stay organized? How do you make sure that you get everything done?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Um, So at least 3 times a week, even if it's just for 15 minutes, I do something that only I want to do or something only I like. I make sure it's just in that moment, it's about me. I love to roller skate, so I'll just pick a random park and go skate for about an hour. Um, I'll just stay in my room and listen to some meditation music. Um, I just try to find something at least 2 to 3 times out of a week that is just for me. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's eating ice cream for 3 hours straight. If it's going to make my mood better so I can keep doing what I have to do in spite of all the crap that's out here, I'm going to sit on my ass and excuse my language and eat ice cream for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what helps me juggle everything. I wish I could say I have a routine. I wish I could say I'm the most organized person in the world. The only thing that I organize is my calendar. And I'm lucky to even do that because I figure if I could at least organize my calendar, I can keep, track of my events or what have you. But in terms of um, like being home, trying to organize files and things of that sort, sometimes I'm a little bit of a, you know, cluster mind. It doesn't mean my home is dirty. It just means if I don't feel like organizing something, I'm not going to do it. I'd rather sit here and take this time and just put it into me. And
Mm,
it's not so much a how as it is I'm providing myself with something that's going to give me the energy I need to do it. So yeah, I just find ways to make myself happy and keep my mood and my mode, and I just get out there and do it.
I love that. Take care of you and then just get out there and do what you can with what you have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'll tell my kids, okay, I'm going in my room. I need like 10 minutes. Don't come knocking. Leave me alone.
Nice. Well, that is beautiful advice from a beautiful person. You make the world a better place, Sandra, and I just can't thank you enough for being our guest. Is there anything else that you want to share or mention before we wrap?
Yeah, I do want to share the fact that I am actually inspired by you. So you don't know this, but you have actually played a major role in what I do today. Um, if anytime your name comes up, Tammy, I'm always like, have you met her? Like, she's so dope. She does all these different things. But your personality is very alluring. It's
Oh,
attractive. And when I tell you, meeting you has just been nothing but great. And I really hold you dear to my heart. You don't realize that, but you have played a major role in what I do. And you say I inspire you. You inspired me.
oh, you
You
make me
really.
cry.
So yes, I need the world to know Tammy is where it's at.
You are so sweet. And I'm wearing mascara. Don't ruin it now. No, I love it. I love it. I appreciate it. And honestly, I'm glad because I do try to inspire people and make a difference. And thank you for noticing.
Yeah, yeah. And that's why I had to say yes to this interview because I felt so honored that you chose me.
Oh, you are so sweet. Well, I'm so honored to have you. And hopefully, we'll be able to do it again sometime. Um, Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Raise Your Own Bar podcast. And thank you, Sandra, for being such a light in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we got to do this again.
We definitely will.
Thank you so much, sis. I really appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you. All right, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.